Ask, and it will be given to you. Meditate, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. One of the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism talks about the cause of suffering. The cause of our suffering, the Buddha said, is desire. But as I read him and engage him and consider my own life, I think he meant something very specific by this. It's not that the Buddha discouraged people from pursuing their very basic human desires, their very basic natural inclinations. It's about something different, something deeper. For example, right? I love key lime pie. And I recognize that I kind of look like a key lime pie with all of this stuff on this morning that isn't me. For me to desire a slice of delicious key lime pie every now and then, this is not a sin. The path to hell is not paved with slices of key lime pie. So if I respond to my craving, like I'm not going to thwart my path towards enlightenment, right? But here's where my desire for key lime pie becomes a problem for me. And it is a problem. Years ago, my lovely spouse and I, we took a trip to Captiva Island, Florida. There are definitely worse places to be on this planet. While we were there, we discovered a little restaurant called Key Lime Bistro. And since the name of the place is Key Lime Bistro, we just had to try some key lime pie, didn't take much arm twisting. After just one bite, I knew in that moment that I was tasting the best key lime pie in the entire universe. Hands down, no debate. There's not even a close second, a close runner-up to this pie. It is that epic. And for me, it was love at first bite. That one was for you, Mo. They say that there are no atheists in foxholes. I sincerely believe that the same is true of Key Lime Bistro. That place will make a believer out of anybody. Now the problem is that the pie there is so good that it makes every other key lime pie taste bad in comparison. That place has ruined me for life, forever. Have you ever had this experience where you've had something so good that it's ruined you, right? So now if I eat a slice of key lime pie anywhere else, and it could be perfectly good key lime pie, I instantly lament the fact that I'm basically eating garbage pie. So nowadays, if I see key lime pie on the menu here in town, I'm not even going to bother to order it because I know it's not going to meet my expectations for what it should taste like. Yeah, sure, some of you may think that your grandma's key lime pie recipe is the very best recipe on the planet, but if you try to shovel a slice of it into my mouth at our next potluck, I'm only going to be wishing I was back in Captiva Island, eating a better pie instead, right? That's all that's going to happen. So do me a favor and just leave your grandmother's dumpster pie at home. Thank you. Now, I know I'm being a bit silly here, but in a very small way, I really am causing myself to suffer a little bit. Now, this would not be a big deal at all. We're just talking about pie. Well, pie is kind of a big deal, I guess. But really, in reality, thinking as a mature adult, this wouldn't be such a big deal if this were the only area in my life where my desire causes me to want to be somewhere else, causes me to want to experience something else other than what I'm experiencing in the moment. The problem is that the way that I feel about key lime pie is pretty much the same way I feel about most everything else in life. Nothing ever seems to measure up to the expectations that I create for my life in my own head. This old house of mine is charming, but I would be so much happier if I had a bigger, newer, fancier house. This car of mine's okay, but I would be so much happier if I had a fancier, shinier, faster car. This job of mine, it pays the bills, but I would be so much happier not working for the jerk I'm working for and working on the other side of town for that other company. This body of mine, it's getting along pretty well. I'm pretty healthy, but I would feel so much happier if I could just feel a little bit younger again. Then I would be truly happy. Wisconsin is nice, but I would be so much happier if I lived in Illinois. Actually, nobody in their right mind thinks that way. I take the last one back. Sorry to all of you Illinoisans. The problem is that because of my constant desire for more, the problem that my default setting in my mind is like experiential wanderlust. Because of this, I spend a large portion of my time wishing I was somewhere else other than in this present moment, right now. I'm driving my car. I don't want to be driving my car. I want to be home already. I'm brushing my teeth. I don't want to be brushing my teeth. I want to be in bed already. I'm at work. I don't want to be at work. I want to be at home watching Netflix on the couch already. I'm preaching a sermon. I don't want to be preaching a sermon. I'd rather be on Captiva Island stuffing my face with pie. Right? Instead of living my life to the fullest in the here and now, instead of engaging each and every single second of my beautiful life with childlike wonder and awe, my mind is somewhere else, reliving some past sentimental memory or fantasizing about some possible future pleasure. The problem is that the future is not here, and the past is already gone, so I suffer. Because what my mind has a habit of circling back to constantly pulls my attention away from the things that are in my here and in my now. My friends, whenever we talk about things like meditation, contemplative prayer, mental stillness, silent prayer, they're all in essence the same thing. When we talk about these things, we're not talking about another spiritual practice amongst other spiritual practices. No. Meditation, contemplative prayer, silent prayer, whatever you choose to call it, it's not a practice to be engaged in as much as it is an awareness of this present moment to be cultivated. We're not trying to train our hearts or our minds to do a certain thing. No, we're training our hearts and our minds to be a certain way, to see a certain way. Most people these days, they see meditation as like a form of escapism. Right? It's not about escaping your life at all. It's about waking up to your life, to the moment. I think most people think that meditation and contemplative prayer are all about creating a sort of vacuum in the mind where no thoughts can ever enter or pass through. Many people think the practice of meditation is about emptying the mind of all thinking. But meditation, contemplative prayer has nothing at all to do with any of that. It's about slowing down for long enough to become aware of the fact that you spend the majority of your life not really being aware of your life. So when I urge you to practice contemplative prayer or to practice meditation, all that I'm inviting you to do is to name and to cultivate that equilibrium of the soul, that balance, that centeredness that you have felt at other times in life. Those times when you are the most happy. I'm not encouraging you to try anything new here. I'm encouraging you to name and to cultivate something you're very familiar with already. Your soul's natural state of rest. That feeling that you get when you're enamored and awestruck by a sunset. That feeling that you get while you're resting in the warm embrace of your lover's arms. That feeling that you get when you see your children playing on the floor gleefully or your grandchildren playing on the floor. That feeling, that's what we're chasing. That feeling that there is no better place to be than this situation right here, right now. Meditation is the practice of having no better place to be, of simply letting your soul rest in the moment and every moment that follows this moment. For true happiness is the realization that this present moment, it's enough. It's everything. My friends, are we not happiest when we stop trying to control our lives so much? Whenever we stop trying to play God with our fate? And when we simply let life be whatever it's trying to be to us, right? With all of its beauty and screwed upness even and complexity. Are we not happiest when we let go of everybody else's expectations of us and choose instead unapologetically to simply let ourselves be who we are? You're happiest when you give yourself permission to become what you are. You're happiest when you give yourself permission to let life be what it is. Meditation, contemplative prayer, it's about learning how to desire nothing else other than this present moment that I'm living and breathing in. I think the reason why so many of us today are so unhappy is because we spend so much time not being mentally or emotionally present to our own lives. We're walking around like sleepwalkers. Someone might say to me, but Father, what you're talking about, it doesn't really apply to me. I know how to live in the moment. I know what it means to seize the day. Carpe diem. Seize the carp, right? Good for you. But let me ask you this question, my friend. When you get home from church today, how long will it take you to turn on the television? To let the pictures and the sounds of an artificial world flood your mind with its fake reality? How many moments will go by before you take your eyes off of things like the beauty of the sky, of the trees, of the blades of grass, of the flowers around you, of the faces around you, so that you can mindlessly scroll and compulsively scroll through a screen on a tablet or a cell phone? How long will it take you before you engage in some mindless chore around your house? Not because the doing of the chore brings you great satisfaction, but because you know that staying busy helps to distract you from that nagging feeling of emptiness that you still have not learned how to shake all of these years later. How much time will pass before you try to combat your boredom or your sadness with snacks or booze? My friends, there's nothing wrong with TV or tablets or cell phones or chores or snacks or alcohol. But do you engage these things mainly because they bring you great joy? Or have you just gotten into the habit of consuming these things because you know they will distract you from all the thoughts you'd rather not be thinking right now and all the feelings you'd rather not be feeling right now? Do these things lead you into a deeper appreciation of your life? Or are you using them in some small way even to escape your life? To numb yourself to your life? Now I know what some of you are thinking. Is that my car alarm going off? You're welcome to check if you need to. Others are thinking, what does any of this have to do with our readings for today? Or even with God? You haven't named God at all yet, Father. The answer is it has everything to do with our readings for today. It has everything to do with God. For how can you be aware of the immensity of God's presence in your own life if you spend so little time actually being aware of your own life? Speaking of that, did you happen to catch that incredibly radical, paradigm-shifting thing that St. Paul said to you moments ago? Or were you too busy thinking about something else as his letter was being read to you? In case you missed it, here's what he told you. Paul told you that you have already come to the fullness of the divine. Past tense, it has already happened. He told you that you've not only been buried with Christ in baptism, but you also have already been risen with him. Past tense, it has already happened. God has already made you fully alive with Christ. Past tense, it has already happened. Your sins have already been fully forgiven by God. Past tense, it has already happened. The fullness of the kingdom come has been given to you. The fullness of God's very presence has been given to you already. Past tense, it has already happened. The fullness of your life, the fullness of your relationship with God is already yours. Paul told you that the only barrier between yourself and God, the only barrier between the person you are right now and the person you desire to be, is the barrier that you have created in your own mind. See to it that no one takes you captive through shallow philosophy or empty deceit. Another way of saying it, take a step back from cultural patterns of thinking. Take your attention off all of those flashy things that technocrats and marketers and CEOs want you to focus exclusively on. And start putting your attention on your own heart instead and see what comes of it. Put down the devices, turn off the TV or the Nintendo Switch, as in our household, for long enough to come back to your own body, to rediscover the blessed simplicity of silence. As one desert father once said, go into your cell or your room, and it will teach you everything. In other words, find a space of silence, frequent it all the time, and that silence will teach you everything. Not only will you discover that silence is God's native language, you will also discover that silence is your soul's native language. Paul says that you have already entered into the fullness of the kingdom, the fullness of God's forgiveness, the fullness of God's peace, the fullness of the divine presence. It would be a tragedy if we just took his words for it and didn't seek to discover what he is saying for ourselves. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who meditates finds. And for everyone who knocks, the door will be open.